Yo, it's your boy CTB, and we're back. Today's video, we're going to be talking about beatboxing judging categories, what are my thoughts on them, and why I think a lot of things about it, it's frankly stupid. This isn't a bad thing per se, but there are a lot of things about beatboxing and the way that we judge beatboxing that has affected the scene in ways that I think are really negative and have really held the scene back in certain ways in the way that they approach and think about their beatboxing. But before I get into all that and I get on my soapbox, I should probably break down the traditional judging categories and then go on from there. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to be going in reverse. Those that know the typical order of the beatboxing judge categories know that it's typically musicality, technicality, originality, cleanliness, and then flow/structure. But for the purposes of this video, we are going to be going in reverse because I do believe that technicality and musicality are the crux of the problems, so to speak, within beatboxing and the way people think about certain things. But also, I want to save originality for another video. So we'll touch on originality, but I'm not going to deep dive that because there's a lot that can be said just for that alone. So for flow and structure, the first part of that being flow, in my understanding, flow is how you communicate how competent you are within rhythm and how you are when it comes to tempo, being able to really stretch a genre and create pockets, and how you transition between pockets, how you transition from a genre to another genre, from a tempo to a different tempo, all different kinds of things that are really reliant on how much you as a beatboxer understand rhythm. That is what flow is. And it goes hand in hand with structure because structure is about the way your rounds are composed and how each section fits together. Now, cleanliness is, as one might expect, about how clean your sounds are. How clear do they come out in your rounds individually, as well as when they're all put together in your beats. How well executed is your round overall? Is it powerful or is it soft? Are you not actually like emoting? Are you not projecting your sounds? Are they coming out sloppy? It's cleanliness. Like, originality is how original is it? And that does not necessarily mean do a bunch of really strange things that sound really, really terrible to those that are listening to it, and we just hype it up in chat like it sounds good. No, it doesn't. We just haven't heard it before. There's a difference. But overall, it's just is the structure of this individual's round similar to the typical structures of beatboxers out here these days? Is it really similar to a very specific beatboxer? Is it a direct bite where they just rip off an entire drop and build up and transition, and it's just like, oh, they just stole 3 beatboxers' entire rounds and just put them into their rounds and just separated it by 30-second intervals? Y'all do that. Some of y'all do. Don't act like you don't. I love you though. Originality is one of the most key components, if not the most key component in beatboxing, regardless of if it's in a competitive sense or not, because beatboxing is a form of expression. And if you're just doing what everyone else is doing, you're not saying anything that anyone else hasn't said. So here we get into the big two that really piss me off: technicality and musicality. Technicality is traditionally understood as how complex and hard to execute are the patterns and the overall structure of someone's beat. But what makes this stupid is the next category, which is musicality, which people typically just think of as the use of melody and the execution of whatever they consider to be a melodic structure. But when you look at all the judging categories, all of them are musicality. Everything is critical in music. You need flow and you need structure in music. You need the sounds that are in it to be clean and actually sound nice to listen to. It would be nice if your music was original, and guess what? Good music is very technical. It's really complex and it's really hard to execute and balance. It doesn't have to be full of a bunch of sounds, but if it really is genuinely quality music, it is not the most simple thing in the world. And sometimes the most simple thing in the world is the most complex because of how it is used. And that in and of itself is a very technical thing that takes a lot of focus and is not easy to do and sound good at the same time. And all of that is incredibly key to making music in the first place. Our categories have these names to them that in a way make sense, but when you think about it, it's stupid. It's stupid. It works, but it's stupid. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Someone like Gene, who's known for being like the Musicality beatboxer, is just as technical as Lem. D-Lo is just as musical as P-Wad. Why? Because everything everyone's doing is music. Everyone's musical. Everyone is. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you just do drums. Everyone is musical. And the more you get used to your style and developing your style and really expanding your style into what it can become, it's going to become more complex and more technical, so to speak, because you'll have a greater IQ within your own way of communicating. It just makes me upset because people start formulating the way they think about beatboxing in these like rigid bubbles to where it's like they think if somebody just does like a melody, or if I was to go like that, like, oh, that's a really melodic beat. Like, yeah, it has a melody to it, but melodic doesn't equal musical. And a lot of people, they automatically compute melodic with music. It's like, oh, that guy did music, just because there was a melody for you to follow. But you have to understand that when somebody is potentially just writing a drum beat the entire time, that in of itself is music too, because the epitome of drums is tempo, and you don't have music without tempo and timing. You don't. Like, even music without drums has timing, has tempo, and the epitome of that is the beat. You don't need to have you don't need drums for a beat to exist. The problem with this also is, besides the way people are thinking about things, is like, oh, if they do a super fast beat, or they go or something, like, oh, that's technical, and somebody's melody isn't technical just because it's the melody. And it's like, if somebody executes a melody that has sounds that are hard to pitch and they're doing it in a really dope way, that's technical. It has to be executed well. That's clean. But yeah, a lot of clean points go to people that spam drums, and if their drums are really clean, they get all the clean points. But somebody that has minimal drums, even though the drums are clean, but they have a melody in it that is also clean, they'll get less points on the cleanness. So people over time have essentially molded their styles off of these judging categories. So you have people that every single round they do has all these melodies in it and everything like that, and then they'll transfer to a real technical section. So like, because they want to score more and have a higher chance of winning, they'll do this balancing act between each of the categories. But it's so formulaic, we can all see it coming. We know when people are transitioning because the types of transitions have almost become standardized. A bunch of people's build-ups almost sound entirely the same, if they're not exactly the same. And it's like there's going to be a basic build-up that is going to be melodic enough to pass on a certain level on the musicality section. And then a lot of people's build-ups are where they throw on all their tech for they can get all their technicality points, so they just spam drums during their build-up. And then the drop is almost always going to be something that is faster with some other sounds. So it's like they get more tech points, but they also get a bit more musical points because they're throwing in some of these other sounds. But typically it's not going to be the musical points that they get unless it's a melody, which makes no sense. And it's like people are forcing themselves to beatbox a certain way to win things. And it pisses me off because people need to realize that the best way to win is to truly be themselves and get really, really, really good at it. Dudes like Inertia have beats that they've had around for years that they could do live on any stage that blows people's heads because they've absolutely dominated their style and they're still learning day after day. Not because they're making sure everything they do hits every single part of a category. Do what you think is dope. Screw the judging categories. Do what you think is dope. Make sure you think what you're doing is fire first and foremost, and then just grind it out. It just pisses me off watching the scene constrict itself in the way people are creating, and it makes me sad. It makes me upset, and it makes me sad. That's basically this video. There's going to be more on judging and how we can effectively judge beatboxing. Stay tuned for that. It's been your boy CTB. I'll see you guys when I see you guys.